Ah, yes, Wes Anderson. If film could physically embody the word quirky.
A message from the foreman. 1 hour to press.
You're fired.
Really?
Don't cry in my office.
And so today we have La Franche Dispatch. The French Dispatch. So The French Dispatch is the newest film. Well, first of all, The French Dispatch 2021 is the newest film by the very prolific, always splendiferous, very quirky, very artistic, and most importantly of all, although my background won't be able to support it, the most symmetrical director that may ever exist, I dare say, Wes Anderson, folks. If you don't know the name Wes Anderson, I get it. He's just one of those names that goes through film schools and film circles, and the people that like film know him, and usually it's like, I don't want to call it like hipster or like hipster style, but like a lot of hipsters tend to like Wes Anderson for a lot of different reasons. I just like him because I think he's a good director. I think a lot of people would agree with me. If you don't know much about who he is or what he's done, does have a fairly extensive filmography, but most recently besides this one, he did Isle of Dogs, which I loved, and I'm pretty sure if I had to rate it today, 5 out of 5, like perfect film. I loved Isle of Dogs so much. It was my top film of that year, actually. I think I actually made a list for that one. And then aside from that, you also might know The Grand Budapest Hotel, another really good one. Dare I say 5 out of 5. He's done many other films that arguably are of higher or more well-known, higher note, more well-known. But I'm not. This isn't a dissertation of his work. It's just I'm just referencing his 2 latest works to just get a frame of mind for it. But his main directing style, which of course comes through in this film as well, is his shots are very symmetrical. They're very. This man is the king of the tripod, or the panning. Just put a shot on a smooth dolly, and then like here you go, and pan over here, and then here's this going on over there. Like it's all very purposeful. The cast. Not even gonna try. What he loves doing is jam-packing all of Hollywood into his films, and this is no exception. I'm not sure what the official count is, but The French Dispatch has dozens of well-known actors, and even actors that are not as well-known, but dozens of actors in this film. I'm not even gonna attempt to scratch the surface, but if you watch the trailer alone, you are bound to recognize even 1 or 2 faces, even if you aren't an avid film watcher. With that being said, let's jump right in. I really enjoyed French Dispatch. I don't know if it's my favorite Wes Anderson film. I don't think it is. I think it works well enough for what it is, and I can see what Wes was trying to accomplish when he was making this film. For one, the trailer was a little bit deceiving for me. Not deceiving, but it kind of buried the lead. They don't really tell you what there's not really most of Wes Anderson's films follow like a story, or they might branch off into a couple other little semi-stories, but it's mainly one story. This is the first time, I wouldn't call it an anthology so much, but the film is unique, and it's presented in a way that a typical film would not be. The whole film is about this publication that used to exist. I believe it actually legitimately used to exist, called The French Dispatch, and it was this like publication that went out in Kansas, but it was about the comings and goings and going-ons in La France, and like that's kind of a neat concept in itself. So I like how Wes took that, and the film centers around like the publication office that is making The French Dispatch, but it also doesn't. Like, it says, okay, that's the setup, but then the film is presented in a way that's like, it's so weird to put into words. The movie is like an actual publication of The French Dispatch, and that it's presented to you as if you're opening like a copy of it and reading through in like the different sections. And those sections are either like short little bits, or they are what are more or less 3 main like narratives, and these narratives are not intertwining. They all obviously exist in the same universe because this is a publication about France, but it's just the film is basically like three unrelated stories, more or less unrelated, and then about the publication office and the writers that were writing these stories, and just kind of like that's it. Like, it's kind of hard to put into words. It works, but for your average film goer, it won't really work too much. And I say that because even as somebody like me, who is an avid film goer and, dare I say, a connoisseur, I stumbled a little bit in the first act trying to figure out what was going on. I didn't think I was going in blind, but the way the narrative starts to unfold, I almost felt like I was like blindly trying to find my way, and like, okay. Then by the time that Act 1 was basically wrapping up, then I got the hang of like, okay, so I see what they're doing here. This is the format, and then I was along for the ride. So a bit of like a shaky first act opening, but like once the movie got going and I could kind of see what it was doing, then I could really kind of sink my teeth into it and enjoy it for what it was. Direction is perfect for what he was trying to accomplish. Visually, it was great. I love the aesthetic, the color palettes, all the usual stuff. I mean, he's no question about it. Wes Anderson is a fantastic, if not phenomenal director who knows what he wants out of his films, knows how to get these shots, how to make these unique standout films in the sludgy waters that are basically Hollywood and what a lot of films are these days. So it's nice to be able to go every few years to see one of these, or to like, you know, sit down at your home and watch one of these, and for it to be different, for it to be unique in his own brand. Now, he never really like tries to expand his profile too much, but he's consistent in that he's like consistently unique, if you know what I'm saying. And I think it's worth saying Wes Anderson is single-handedly keeping production designers employed. When I tell you the amount, not even of like hidden details, but the amount of just flat out detail period in all of his films that goes into every single shot. Like, I get anxiety just thinking about it. Just props to the people who do the props. The people that are, whether it's like actor placement, character placement, staging the scene, a room, a home, a tableau, an item, like it's all, every single shot. I mean, the storyboards for these films must be like just the world's biggest picture book, basically. Like, it's extremely impressive, and that adds to like, you know, you can almost get lost in it because there's just so much. You feel like you're just like driving by the surface of what, like, again, like if you go into this lake, there's just so much to discover. The lake that is this film. Like I said, performances are all strong. He knows what actors to go for, and even the actors that like a movie like this. What I like about this is that since there's so many actors, it really proves that old adage that actors very often forget. There are no small roles, because there's actors that are in this that are huge, like big time, and they'll be in it for like a few seconds or a minute or something like that, and yet they serve their purpose and they play that character and play that part beautifully, and it all works out to become this like ensemble cast, and it works really well for the film, as it does with all of his films that he applies this same formula to. My main criticisms of the film are that while I like and appreciate the format it's presented in, while it has an anchor, a quote-unquote a narrative anchor, I also feel like it lacks that narrative anchor. Like, I get what the story is trying to show, but it's almost like you can't even tell if the film is trying to be more about these stories as like, oh, these are their stories, Kong Kong, or if it's about the publication and the people within that are writing the stories. I guess really it is about the writers. Like, that's, in retrospect, like, as you go to each story, you are being like that's the article you're reading right now, but you are being presented it in a visual media format. It's hard to put into words, but when you watch it, it makes sense. And so, because that isn't too clear, I think it might lose your average film goer. But if you like film a lot, and you like artsy films, and you like Wes Anderson, like, it's hard to say like the type of people that would like this film. I really enjoy these types of films. I always go as far as to say I love watching films like these, but with a film like this in particular, it doesn't feel quite as it's not solid, not solid foundation. Like, it is and it isn't, you know? Like, there is an anchoring narrative, but there isn't an anchoring narrative because it's presented as an anthology of different stories, but all these stories are also being presented as if they're being reviewed by an editor of a publication before they're about to be published. So, like, it works, but at the same time, like, it slips around for me a little bit. I'll say it's ambitious, and I like that. Like, I wouldn't say Wes has really been expanding his filmography per se, but by doing something like this, I can tell he's at least trying to, like, push the limits of the box a little bit more with each film and see, like, oh, you know, whether it's more animation, whether it's more actors, whether it's different settings, like, he's trying to, like, play around with everything. Yeah, and then I guess the last note that I have kind of also alludes to it with the title of the video, but the film does pay fantastic respect to writers and editors, and I've always thought about, I know that I can write well, but, like, to be a writer, like, it just kind of seems, it's like trying to be a filmmaker these days, or trying to do this, be an entertainer, an online presence. It's just such an oversaturated medium, and to be a critic or a writer or whatever, it's like, there's so much gray area and so many niches to all that. It's just hard to even, like, begin to dive into. But it's kind of cool to see, like, you know, how the sausage gets made type of deal in terms of, like, writers and their different processes, editors, and kind of how they're able to, like, corral these writers and get them to put out the right work or switch up something or kind of embrace the better parts of them or try to let go of some of the worst parts. Like, it's if you are a writer, or if you are, like, a reader or just a fan of writing in general, I think you'll also have an appreciation for this. And I think Wes was really trying to get that across as well. So he's trying to pay respects to the writing industry and writers and editors while also making another film about it all. And just, it works. But at the same time, like I said, it works, but it only works if you are accepting the format in which it's being provided to you. It's too messy to get into, but overall, I'll leave it at this. My final thoughts on it, like I said, not my favorite Wes Anderson film, but still really good and enjoyable, and by the end of it, I really enjoyed it. And for that reason, I would say French Dispatch gets a low 4 out of 5. I feel like that's fair. It's really good. It is really good, but it's not going to be for everyone, but I would recommend seeing it. I would say see it in theaters if you're a fan of his works or similar films. Check out the trailer, see what you think. It might be a bit, like, it's quick, but still slower than your average film. Hard to say. It'll keep your attention for sure, but it is a little bit artsy. It's a little bit foo-foo or whatever you want to say, but it's nice. It's an enjoyable film for someone like me. I really liked it. And yeah, that's about all I have to say without, like, just droning on about it. But I'd recommend it. I thought it was really good. That's it. That was my review of The French Dispatch. I really wish in these reviews I can get more into it and comprehensive, but it's hard enough trying to get somebody's attention for 15 to 20 minutes just to kind of give you an overall idea of what you're looking at, let alone some, like, hour and a half breakdown or dissertation of the film and source material. So I'll leave it at this. And thank you as always so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode of whatever film I review. Yeah. Goodbye, travelers.